8, 9, 10.
Hi guys. Hello, good afternoon. What do we want to talk about today?
Well, I don't know. Maybe getting past jealousy.
Maybe we'll talk about that. We had actually a request for, someone asked if we've done a video on jealousy, and I feel like we definitely have. I don't know where it is. I don't know if it's in one of our programs or if we did it a long time ago and haven't talked about it in a while. So I was like, well, that's a great topic and probably very relevant for a lot of people, and definitely was relevant at one point in our relationship. So we want to talk about getting past jealousy. And that definitely early on in our relationship, and I think my biggest thing and the reason it was very relevant for me, and I think that this tends to be a reason it is relevant for a lot of people, is if you've been hurt, if you've been betrayed, if someone has, rejected you or left you for someone else or cheated on you, you kind of have that pattern set up in your mind and you're like, I don't want to get hurt again. So let me, get jealous of the person that my significant other is talking to, hanging out with. What are they, you fill your mind with all of these ideas, what they might be doing, what they might be, doing behind your back. Do they like this person more? And I mean, it's just like, can absolutely spiral out of control, the imagination that goes on when you're kind of like mulling these jealous feelings about, something going on with your significant other and another person. And it's not to say those feelings are never justified, but that was a huge realization for me early on in our relationship, is that my state and where I'm coming from with those feelings of jealousy is a me thing, and realizing it was a me thing and turning within and doing the inner work to shift and really learn about what this jealousy was trying to teach me, that was huge for me.
Yeah, so the first thing I would do is kind of just to take a step back from it a little bit and do my best to ask a couple of questions as objectively as I can. You don't have to worry about your inability to be more objective than you're able to, but I just kind of like to just set the framework, because different people kind of are referring to different things when they talk about jealousy. They're referring to different problems. Some people have a tendency to pathologize things that they are doing that, while maybe not productive, aren't irrational or aren't wrong. I mean, it makes sense that you're doing that even though it's not working. You know what I'm saying? Other people, they're jealous because they're experiencing a reaction that is appropriate to what their significant other is doing, given the kind of dynamics of their relationship. So like if you're in a traditional, ostensibly monogamous relationship and your partner is in fact behaving inappropriately or actually cheating on you or whatever, and you're experiencing something that you don't like, and you call that jealousy, it's like, that's different, do you know what I'm saying, than somebody who has no choice but to feel jealous, do you know what I'm saying, or who feels jealous. I mean, they could literally be on a desert island with their significant other with no cell phone or internet connection, and they're jealous with how much time the guy spends or the girl spends, with a coconut or something like that. That's different. And so the first thing it can happen, like Wilson, because Wilson's soccer ball. Yeah. It's even worse because it's like not even, it's synthetic. So the first thing that I would do is I would draw a distinction between, does jealousy make sense in the context of the relationship that I'm in? Not does jealousy make sense in the context of my personal history. Because I guarantee you, if you're experiencing what you call jealousy, if you're experiencing anything, the fact that you're experiencing that thing makes sense in the context of your personal history. But given the actual real dynamics of the relationship that you're currently in, is your significant, are you feeling jealous because of something that they are doing? Or would you be probably feeling jealous regardless of what they were doing? They say, I find this very useful if I'm feeling irritated. So for example, if I'm feeling irritated, is it because of something Melissa's doing? I kind of run through a little dialogue here with myself. Because even though if I know intellectually that it's not because of something she's doing, there's a part of me that's not intellectual that's convinced that it is because of something she's doing. So I say, okay, am I irritated because of something that she's doing? Well, yeah, I am. Okay, well, if she weren't doing that thing, would I be irritated? And it's like, well, probably, yeah, probably would be something else. Probably whatever she was doing, I'd be irritated by. That's the first thing that I would run down. Now, the next thing would be, am I feeling jealous because of something they're doing that's making me feel jealous or that's inviting me to feel jealous? Am I feeling jealous because of personal history, kind of baggage stuff that I have, stuff that happened to me in the past, somebody else cheated on me, or or maybe my mother, my father, role models, people that taught me how to interact with my significant other, they exhibited jealousy all the time, and so it's kind of just a default setting for me. Or that's almost like a separate thing because of something they're doing, or because of it's just a way I'm going to feel. Or is the jealousy in some way or another functioning to create a higher level experience that I am in some way dedicated or committed to creating? So for some people, jealousy is the thing. Like jealousy is the end and the means. That's just the existential. It's the secret ingredient in their experience is jealousy, the behavior that comes with jealousy, the drama that behavior creates, and then the subsequent dismay or dissatisfaction or wreckage that behavior that's jealous ends up creating. For other people, their end game is being abandoned or being left or being amidst in drama. So certain people need drama of any kind. Jealousy is a very efficient and a very effective way of creating that drama. That's a relevant distinction. I mean, and this is the kind of stuff that a lot of people don't really think too much about, and it's the reason that their experience feels as real and as kind of inscrutable, kind of inescapable, inevitable as it does. It's very different if jealousy is my only problem. That's an easy fix. If I have a commitment to drama or discord or dissatisfaction, or if I've got an existential position, there's something I believe about myself, either just absolutely or in relationship to men or women or people that I'm interested in romantically or people that I'm committed to at all or whatever, and I'm going to confirm that to me. So for example, they always leave you in the end, or I always fuck things up in the end, or nothing ever works out for me. And I'm just using jealousy as a vehicle to get there. Not consciously, like, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll go and check her phone, and then I'll make it obvious that I did that, and then she'll get really angry, and then somewhere down the line that'll snowball into her leaving me, and I can say, it's not like that. But if you just kind of look at it, I think that's a very interesting thing. And I don't know what your answer to this would be, but when there was kind of like jealousy stuff going on between us, and this has been years, I think, ago that anything real like this has happened, do you think that it was primarily that you had things in your past that predisposed you to experiencing jealousy? And or do you think that there was a higher level thing? So, for example, drama and discord.
It was both for sure. I had both levels of issues of, one, the having been cheated on before. There's a lot of drama with that. But then there was also just like that need for drama in the relationship, that need for the fighting and the calling out and the apology and the everything's okay and the coming back together. That whole charade was very important to me, outside of my awareness, of course, for what I thought normal relationship, give and take, back and forth dialogue, fighting drama. It was just so normal for me that it served both purposes.
Prior to the cheating, right, and the jealousy and the drama associated with that, was there drama in the relationship unrelated to jealousy that occurred before the cheating?
Yes.
Okay, so that's interesting. And so then when the drama started, right, or when the jealousy started as a result of the cheating incident, there
was jealousy before that too. Yeah.
Oh, there was jealousy even before that happened. Oh, okay. So not only was there drama before, there's actually jealousy before too.
Well, yeah, because I went to I guess in just all of my romantic type relationships, there was I went to a very small school with only just a few cute boys, and like everybody liked
scarcity.
The one boy, and so there was a lot of competition. There was a lot of who's he hanging out with, who's he calling, who's he talking to. So that was just kind of an always thing in my...
Do you think that drama leads to jealousy, or does jealousy lead to drama?
Drama leads to jealousy, I think.
Oh, is that right?
I think so.
So jealousy is the big one? Bigger than drama?
Oh, no. Other way, yeah.
Okay. It's like jealousy...
It serves the purpose of creating drama.
So jealousy is a particular path that you can take to the destination of drama. Upheaval. Discord.
Certainly, yes.
Yeah, that's interesting. So that's kind of an example of like this. That I think that's pretty important to identify. Because if you can figure out like what's the gist of this thing, what's the crux of this thing, like what's really real for me, what's going on behind the scenes that I don't necessarily want to admit to myself or someone else in terms of what role is this playing in my experience. That's a question that I'll ask. What is the experiential relevance of this? What's the experiential relevance of this jealousy? Well, it's very dramatic. Or are there other things in your life that are dramatic? If the jealousy weren't there, if the behavior that they're engaging in that's inviting you to feel jealous, if that weren't there, would it just be peace and perfect harmony? Or is there a different tune of drama? Is there some other way to do it? That, I think, figuring that out is so important, because there's a difference between, like, if I'm doing construction in my house and I, start to hammer in the nail for some purpose to hold something up or something, but I don't completely hammer the nail in. There's a difference between leaving that nail sticking out in a way that makes it possible for someone to poke their eye or snag their shirt or scratch their skin or something, versus me going, I'm going to leave this nail out right at eye level so that somebody can, gouge their eye out with it with like a nefarious intention. Some people have patterns that just so happen to interact with other patterns that they have, and patterns that their significant other happens to have. Usually there's a selection bias that goes on. Just happen to interact in a way, it's just like oil and water. Like, I didn't choose to be this way to get a rise out of you. You didn't, I don't think, choose to do those things to create a specific incendiary response from me. It just so happens that we just don't jive. And sometimes people who are, potential good partners, they just happen to have patterns that they don't. Some people's dysfunctional patterns turn together very well, and it's still dysfunctional, but it doesn't cause fights in between them. Other people have dysfunctional patterns that are kind of at loggerheads that put them kind of in opposition to each other. But it just happens. Sometimes wiring is just shoddily and carelessly done. That's different than arson. Arson is when I set up the wiring so that and certain people have patterns that are designed to replicate things that they saw in their early life. Drama, jealousy, undesirable outcomes, crying, subsequent catharsis, whatever it is. And one of the things that and in terms of kind of the tenacity of those patterns and the ease with which a person can stop doing what doesn't work, if you're doing what doesn't work because it just happened to be the strategy that you absorbed, and your parents just happened just to do it that way, if someone comes along and shows you a better way, as soon as you have enough awareness to recognize the situations in which it's time to do it the better way, it'll be pretty easy for you to do it. If you are drawn, though, like a magnet to doing this thing that doesn't work, it's like even when you can tell it's not going to work, there's just some part of you that there's this like emotional, there's this existential commitment, there's this fear of what might happen if you don't, there's this sensation that you're not being real or authentic if you don't do it this way, you feel like you're fooling yourself, you're lying to yourself, you're feeling like you're being allowing them to deceive you. If there's just this kind of like, it's like a black hole sucking you into doing it again, even though you know the results are going to be a disaster. That's not just bad wiring. That's not just, I happen to get a bad pattern from my parents. I inherited a pattern from my parents that is specifically, it's a feature. Jealousy, drama, disaster is a feature of this pattern, not a bug. A bug is when I have a certain strategy for, I don't want to get hurt, I don't want to get cheated on, and therefore I tend to kind of keep too close of an eye on my partner, and that has side effects. There's a difference between side effects and intended effects, right? Take a certain medication, it's designed to do whatever, something ostensibly helpful, but it's got a side effect, makes you want to kill yourself. Got a side effect, makes all your skin fall off. Got a side effect, causes you to see toasters that aren't there, right? That's a side effect. It's still bad, but it's not built into the thing. If you're like on death row and you get a lethal injection, dying is not a side effect of a lethal injection, it's the intention of that thing. Certain patterns are strategies for navigating life, and they work as well as they do, and they have a certain cost associated with them. I don't want to get hurt. I need to protect myself. And so what I do is I don't let my girlfriend, wife, woman, whatever, leave the house. It's like, well, okay, might prevent her from cheating on me, at least in the short term, but it's going to have a lot of side effects. It's going to cost me, and it's going to cost her, and it's going to cost the world, right? Don't get to interact with this person because I got her locked up in the basement, literally or metaphorically. There's too many costs associated with that. That's different, though, and there are some people who have some really fucking dysfunctional patterns, and you would be convinced that, like, this is so predictably going to piss off your significant other. This is so predictably going to cause you pain. It has to be that the only reason you would do this or that this pattern could only be designed, actually it's just a really bad pattern. I mean, it's as if a person were, I don't know, like we're designing like a target shooting pistol, and someone designs it so that the barrel points at the person who's pulling the trigger. And it's actually intended to shoot the target, but the person who designed it was really dumb, and so it shoots the person who's pulling the trigger. It's like, that doesn't, people actually can be so dumb sometimes that you don't have to attribute nefarious intention to things that seem like that's the only thing I could possibly conclude. And I think that you don't, the people who design these patterns that you have, or unconsciously developed them way back in the past, you don't know the information they didn't have, and you don't know the situations that they were dealing with. People have a capacity to be really stupid, and that says nothing about their capacity to be intelligent. But the fact that we have the ability to be really smart in no way takes away from our ability to be really dumb. And when I'm looking at my patterns, I don't want to say, well, I think that, kind of very Freudian, this must be intended to create bad out. Sometimes that's true. A lot of the times, though, it's just shitty wiring. And when you fix it, knowing what you're getting into is very important. If I'm going to a fuse box that was rigged by an idiot, I'm going to have a different demeanor, a different attitude, a different set of tools. I'm going to take different precautions than if I'm going to defuse a bomb, like in Die Hard 3 or one of those movies. It's different. Do you know what I'm saying? Because it's just a different attitude. And so when you're looking at your jealousy, or you're like, that's my cue. When you're looking at your jealousy, or she just gets up and walks off. I know I've been talking too long. It's useful.
No, I think the cars are loud. It's busy up there.
Oh, it is. You're right.
Yeah.
It's different. But if I can tell, and if I can have enough self-awareness and enough kind of self-candor to assess accurately this pattern, did my parents give me this pattern because it's the best thing they knew how to do, or did they give me a pattern because they thought it was the best that they could do, but it happens to involve overt self-destruction? Telling the difference between that's really important, because if it's as simple as just you having criteria that cause you to feel jealous, really, just because he's going out, she's going out, that lets me know it's time to be jealous. That's different than a person who, if he doesn't go out, but he looked at his phone, or he spent a little too much time in the bathroom. Was he texting someone in there? Was he doing? When you can start telling the difference between that, because if it's genuine, just straight up criteria, I've got criteria for knowing when it's time to be jealous. If this, and this happens, I get jealous. And it just so happens that those criteria are fulfilled a lot in normal life, whether the person's cheating on me or being unfaithful or not. That's probably just an ineffective strategy for keeping yourself safe. If, on the other hand, I say, I've got criteria for knowing if you're cheating, and if you do these things, it's time to get jealous. But also if you do this, or this, or this and this, or a combination of da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It's like, is there a single mouse trap in the room? And it's kind of like, with a piece of cheese on it. You're probably a mouse. If you're behind the couch, you get your hand back there and that thing snaps on you, you're probably more than likely you're a mouse. But if there's literally a mouse trap covering every square inch of the floor, it's like you don't have to be a mouse to get trapped in that thing. Do you know what I'm saying? You don't have to be cheating. You don't have to look like you're cheating. You don't have to have the appearance of impropriety in order to get my alarms going. Well, that's a pattern operating inside you that's probably designed to create a negative experience regardless of what happens. That doesn't mean you're a bad person, but it means that there's some kind of corrupt information in here about what is inevitably going to happen, so we might as well go ahead and make it happen anyway. Wars are going to happen one way or another. I might as well foment a war right now so that I have the advantage, that I have the upper hand. And either of those things are fixable, but it helps to know which one it is you're working with.
It absolutely does, because I definitely had the mouse traps everywhere, and
That's
because
consistent with my experience.
I had the mouse traps everywhere, and it was just kind of like it didn't matter. As I could make the content fit the situation. I could get upset about just about anything, because the foregone conclusion is I was going to get upset. There was going to be drama. There was going to be, and there's all sorts of, root cause things I'm trying to get for it. I'm trying to get validation of the relationship. I'm trying to get, so if I act weird and pouty and I'm waiting for you to come say what's wrong, and then you say what's wrong and I say nothing, and there's like this whole game, but really what was wrong was that I looked at your phone or your computer or something, and I'm suspicious about something, and I want you to guess or to tell me that everything's okay and we're in this great relationship and you really care about me. And so I want that validation. I want, there's that drama, there's the call out, there's just there's so many little elements. But when you're in it, you're in it. And if you have no idea, you have no idea. You're just living it, and it feels so real, and it feels so raw and, like real life. But it was awareness, like the awareness challenge we did last week, which was what allowed me to climb the mountain above this pattern and look down at it and see, oh, I set all of those traps. Oh, I I was going to create some kind of situation like this. I was going to create that feeling because I want that come together after some type of fight, some type of call out, some type of I think you might be doing this, and you say no, da da da, and everything's great, and and I'm after something.
See,
and when you see the ulterior motive, and you are seeing the thing that you're trying to get out of it, it's like, oh my goodness, why do I feel like I don't have that? Why do I feel like I lack that? Why do I feel like I need to contrive and manipulate you to give me this thing? Why do I not think that this is just, is this not freely available to me? And that was one of the things that was very clear in our just particular relationship, was that, it's never with, I could ask for it. And I think that's a big thing too, is not asking for the things that you want and getting them in ulterior type ways, so that you kind of you feel like you have to manipulate and maneuver. And again, none of this is conscious. It's all just navigating based on what you've witnessed, based on what you've seen, based on, you're watching your parents, other relationships. I mean, even watching TV and drama, like reading books, and, I was a very emotional, just dramatic kind of person. And I just felt like romance and love and light, it was so, everything hinged upon it. And so I felt very justified in being the dramatic, emotional, like, I need you to love me, and I need you to validate me, and I need, but when I saw it for what it was, and I realized this isn't fun, because I think you can do that in a way that's fun.
Well, I think there's a huge difference between needing to be loved, right, and needing the experience of needing to be loved. Completely different.
Yeah.
Because if you need to be loved and you're not being loved, or having the love expressed in a way that you can understand or relate to, okay, fine, it's time to have it. That's a legitimate issue, which is to say, hey, Steve, the light doesn't seem to be working. Would you take a look at it and see what you can do? Check the bulb, check the fuse box. Okay, I fixed it. We're all good now. And hey, everything's good. Versus, I need there to be a problem with the home, because part of my life and how I navigate my reality and my experience and how I structure my time and how I derive significance and how I feel full experientially is that I have to have drama. That creates a lot of misunderstanding when you have someone who is thriving on a problem and another person who is literally just trying to solve that problem. You know what I'm saying? And it was so interesting. I just was, my head was going to explode when you were saying, because you were articulating it so well.
Oh, thank you.
Which was that, so it sounds like, and you can tell me if this is consistent with your experience, that we don't really rehearse this before. I'm as surprised as you are to hear some of these things, that for you, it sounds like jealousy and all the behaviors that are associated with it. So checking the phone, monitoring the behavior, if I mention someone's name and they're female or whatever, all of those things, they weren't even. So ostensibly, jealousy would serve to protect the jealous person from being betrayed or being hurt by the betrayal, or somehow or another being duped into being the fool, while the other person's out having fun, you're home cooking dinner and all these different things, and here I am off betraying your trust or embarrassing you, breaking your heart, whatever that kind of collection of things is. And it's different for different people, but that's the surface social level function of jealousy. I'm feeling jealous because I feel like I need to keep an eye on you. I feel like I'm being cheated. I mean, literally, like I feel like I'm being cheated. And the feeling of being cheated, if you think about it, is ostensibly so that I can avoid being cheated or prevent cheating or stop cheating if it's happening, right? But it sounds like for you, what you described was that it wasn't even functioning for that ostensible purpose, is that maybe you learned a template in early life or from movies and literature and personal experiences, and it said part of a romantic relationship involves the drama associated with jealousy. So what you weren't jealous because you wanted me to stop doing certain things. It sounds like you were jealous because at that time jealousy was an important part of your experience of a relationship, and it was an emotional fuel moving towards a specific outcome. Jealousy leads to drama, drama leads to reconciliation, reconciliation leads to affirmation of the importance of the relationship. Now that is fucking interesting, because I mean, so interesting, because what starts to happen is a lot of people in the victim of jealousy position say, you've got no reason to feel jealous. This is ridiculous, and you push back. But if the person who is jealous is not jealous because they think it's reasonable to be jealous. They're jealous because at some level they know the jealousy is illogical and irrational and unwarranted. But for them, the greatest affirmation of love is the other party's willingness to tolerate irrational, unjustified, illogical expressions that don't make any sense. Let me behave in a way that is destructive, in a way that causes you stress and pain, in a way that has no basis in any of your behavior, no basis in reality. Let me do that. And I want you to not only not leave me, not only not change how you feel about me, I want you to lavish me with affection and all of these different things. Not because I'm somehow sinister or some kind of emotional pervert, but because that's the only level of love that lets me know the love is real. Anything else is fair weather love. Like if you weren't jealous and you know, there's people who think if I don't act crazy, I don't know how far I can push the bounds of your love. And you might just be loving me because I happen to be easy to get along with. That's not real love. Real love is I act like a fucking lunatic and you still are there. And if you're operating under that assumption, you've literally got no choice. Whatever you define as rational, I'm not saying any one particular thing is rational and not. Whatever I define as rational, I have to step outside those bounds and act in irrational, unresourceful, unproductive ways. Because if I don't do that, I don't know if you really love me or not. Now, that's a really unfair position for me to put myself in. That's an unfair position for anybody to put themselves in. And if you've ever felt bad about things that you were saying and feeling and thinking and doing, it's probably not because there's something wrong with you, but it's because there might be this collection of presuppositions that, like, literally, until the person loves you in spite of fabricated, preordained, created drama, they don't really love you. And I think that for us, kind of reevaluating those criteria, like it's not about our ability to get through bad times that we each fomented so that we could prove to ourselves we could get through bad times. Our love has become, I think, about our ability to not subject ourselves to phony bad times and to create as many good times as we can. And when we hit a speed bump, we just move over it as smoothly and as harmoniously as possible. Those are equally valid expressions of love and criteria for knowing that you're loved. I think one is a hell of a lot more enjoyable and more fun and conducive, I think, to the kind of outcomes that you want. So you just really just kind of like, the way that you described that was such a straightforward description, I think, of what was motivating your process at the time. That's an awareness thing, I think.
Oh, it totally is. And also, it's very interesting in my previous relationship where I was cheated on and the whole thing, there was like this, because we got back together after it happened, but there was always this upper hand that I had in that situation. So it's almost like, finding out that you've done something or betrayed me in some way, and when you're very sorry about it and I allow you to get back together with me, I will always have that. And I know it's very nasty, but it was something that it was just kind of like, it was always there. Like after I got it, I was like, this is actually, yes, I had to go through, all of that, but now I have like this level of control, which again, knowing and recognizing these kind of power dynamics and this desire for control in relationships and stuff, it's pretty wacky when you see with that clear eye what you're doing and how you're placing the pieces and how you're kind of orchestrating this life experience. And when you stop wanting a life experience like that and you want peace and harmony and good times and like sweet lighthearted fun, which is like what our relationship consists of pretty much all the time now, it's like, I didn't need that. The things I thought I was getting or confirming or, locking in this power, I don't want that. I don't like the way that feels anymore. And it only came from like being able to see it. But I think there are other facets, I think, to jealousy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like fundamental insecurity is a big one. And like, comparison. So like if you are you talk to many very lovely girls all day long on Facebook Messenger.
That's true.
That's what Steve does. Is he talks and to lots of different really nice girls and women.
Let me put this in context. So I talk to girls, I talk to guys, I talk to myself, I talk to my dog. I literally would talk to a yoga block. I'll talk to anything, right?
Well, that's true. But you know what I mean? If I wanted to, I could spend a lot of time getting upset or getting jealous or stalking people's Facebook books. I don't know. I could do all sorts of very dysfunctional things if I wanted to. If I was feeling, especially, if I was feeling insecure, if I felt like there was this comparison, like, oh, if she this much, would he leave me for this person? I could drive myself crazy. I have a very good imagination, but that's the power of, one, having something better to do, power of controlled imagination, the power of having your own stuff going on, I think is such a big one, because, when you don't have time to be worrying about the minutia of how, what you're doing and who you're talking to, it's I don't have time for that. I'm living my life. I'm being a person who is into what she's doing, and I'm into myself and my stuff and the people that I'm helping and my own channels and my own, content that I'm creating, and it's, if you've got time for it, if there's a space in your world that's what is my significant other up to? Let me check. Oh, red flag there. Let me go down. You know what I mean? If you've got time to do that, there will be plenty of stuff that's going to fill that. There's going to be a person, there's going to be a situation, they're going to need to go do some job. They're going to, you know what I mean? There's going to be something there. And again, that kind of comes back to that, is it going to be something? And if it's got to do with that fundamental security, if I need to know that I'm okay and I'm beautiful and I'm lovable and I'm, worthy of being in a relationship, because I need you to be telling me 24/7, and I need you to literally only have eyes for me and not talk to anyone ever, I'm going to run into problems. And so my awareness of that, it's always, every feeling is a teacher. Every trigger, I posted this the other day, every time you're triggered, every time you get that what, okay, that feeling, it's it's not a reason to look out, to laser focus on you and what you're doing and what you're saying and that girl, and what's going on there. It is
it sounds so much cooler than I actually am. It's just I'm just talking to one of my grandmothers.
Turn this ship around. Look within, because it's teaching you. It's only there to teach you. It is there to teach you that bad feeling, that jealousy, that trigger. It's showing you something that you're not giving to yourself. It's what am I needing? What am I needing that, I feel like I'm not going to get? What do I feel like I'm going to be deprived of? What do I feel, look at what meaning you're giving to this situation, to, what are the thoughts running through your head? Write those things down, take them captive, look at them, put them on paper, because they feel really gross and scary and insecure and yucky when they're in the back of your mind. When you put them down on paper and you say, well, this is stupid. If I tell this to myself, if I believe this story, I'm going to feel like crap. When I feel like crap, I probably, I'm not as attractive. I'm not as fun to be around. And that actually, over time, might actually lead my significant other to find other people more interesting, more intriguing, more uplifting. They might like the way they feel better around that person than me. And that realization for me was huge, that those feelings of jealousy and insecurity, they are repulsive. They literally repel your significant other. They do not draw them in. And if you've got enough of your own stuff going on, and if you just are so filled up because you filled yourself up and you realize it's the only place that true a fill up can come from is from your own giving it to yourself, your own self-talk and your self-concept. And what kind of person do I want to be? Do I want to be this kind of person? And it's kind of back to the drawing board. So much of the work that we do, it's back to the drawing board. Self-concept. What is this thought? What is this feeling indicative of what I believe to be fundamentally true about me as a person? Do I want this to be true? Do I like the way this feels? How does this person think? What kind of life is inevitable for her versus who I want to be? And so I start feeding on different thoughts. And so if you are triggered frequently by feelings of jealousy, it is such a sign to look within, to look for these patterns, to look at this fundamental self-concept stuff, and what thoughts are you feeding on all day long, because it matters so much.
Yeah, so these, those nasty thoughts that you described, it's kind of like a wet fish. It's hard to get a grip on them. You imagine like at the fish market, they got their eyes and they're kind of gross. But if you wrap them in paper, you write it down on paper. I mean, a fish that's wrapped up in a nice piece of like paper from the I don't know, what do you call that place? The fish market, the fishery, whatever. And that's where they hatch them. Right? Well, it's a lot less gross. You know what I'm saying? And you can get a grip on it a lot better. And I feel like it works that way sometimes if you write them down. A couple of things I think at this point, because we've given a lot of personal. Well, for one thing, I don't know why I feel like I need to stipulate this. I actually am not the one that did the cheating. Right? This is a previous relationship.
Yes, it was not.
It wasn't
you.
me.
No, it was not.
I'm an angel. But anyway, what was I? Oh, I'm going to kind of back up a little bit because we're using a lot of personal examples, and they may not directly apply to your situation. I think one of the things we're trying to do is get across a couple of like really big picture principles. Sometimes they can kind of get lost in the personal details. I'm always aware of the possibility of this, and so one of the things, I mean, it's like you were saying is, I mean, one of the questions I ask myself is, do I want to be someone who worries about this? And I don't need to know exactly what needs to be different in order for me to not be that person. I just need to know I don't want to be that person. If I start worrying about what Melissa's up to, and this isn't really something that happens for me, but if it did, I would simply say to because for me, jealousy doesn't make any sense. One of the things for me is if the only thing standing between you cheating on me is you not coming into contact with someone that you find attractive or appealing enough, or interesting enough, or nice enough, or whatever, well then, you know what? It's probably going to happen anyway. I mean, if the only thing standing between you doing something I don't want you to do is you not having an opportunity to, well then fuck it. It's going to happen eventually anyway. And therefore, you know what that does when I buy that? I don't have to busy myself looking out for potential opportunities, and trying to keep you from them or trying to monitor the extent to which you seem to be enticed by them or anything like that. I've got an attitude that says, let the kid go out and play in the dirt and get exposed to some germs and let him build his immune system. Go out in the world, do what you need to do, and let's see what happens when that happens. I'm not, and I don't want to wake up ever and say to myself, well, I know that I deleted those messages from that nice, attractive man, and so Melissa won't see them, and so I know she's not going to go off and get another relationship with me. That to me doesn't really work. It's like if I got to finagle and meddle in it to that extent, it's probably not worth preserving anyway. It's not, I'm not going to, and it's not even that you're not worth doing it. I am not going to be a person who lies in bed at night wondering about what you might or might not be doing. Fuck that. Fuck it. That's a waste of my life. I'm just not going to do that. I don't care how nice you are. I don't care how much you mean to me. I don't care. That's beneath me. Yeah, I'm not going to waste my time worrying about what you're doing. Because one, it sucks, and two, it doesn't even work, And one of the things that you talked about too is that when my attitude towards interpersonal relationships of all kinds, with your parents, with your kids, with your significant other, whatever, the meat and the potatoes, or the tempeh if you prefer, the entree, the main, in terms of my existential okayness, in terms of my enjoyment of life, in terms of my just basically being okay with what it's like to be me, comes from me. The appetizer and the entree and all the other associated things, I feed that to myself. Everything about our relationship, as expansive as it is, as much time as we spend together, as important to me. Dessert is important to me. Because it's just dessert, now, just because it's a small part of the meal doesn't mean it's not important to me. It's the apex of the meal. For me, the salad is important because it leads to the dessert. Do you know what I'm saying? The self-work that I do.
The salad, though.
I do like the salad, and I think that you should enjoy the salads, because if you enjoy it, you'll consume it more. If your self-love, right? It's not even about. When you say self-love, I think about going to the spa or saying, look at yourself in the mirror and saying, I'm great, and that just to me, what it is systematically, constantly looking to improve what it's like to be me. Asking myself useful, not necessarily obviously spiritual questions, but immensely spiritual and totally useful, resourceful questions like, what would it take for me to not give a fuck about this? What would it take for me to be able to make sense out of not worrying about this? Or better still, what would it take for me to not be able to make sense out of worrying about this? That makes a sound that really... sorry. It's okay. Certain sounds, like, it's got that... Like,
he doesn't like that when I touch the mouse pad. It gives him a weird feeling.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know why. Something, my spinal cord likes it.
I like the way it feels to touch it.
It does feel... Yeah, it feels nice to touch it, but there's a certain sound.
I got you,
so anyway, you can't wait to take advice from us, right? I can't even handle that smart. But anyway, the meat and the potatoes of it is stuff I do for myself. And dessert. Now, a couple things that, if I've had a really delicious meal and I'm deprived of dessert, have been nice to have dessert, but I'm not starving. I feel fortified. I'm able to go to sleep. I'm okay. I'm being sustained. If I'm taking care of what it's like to be me, I'm moving forward in the areas of life that are important to me. And my significant other gets eyes for somebody else. Maybe decides they want to go be with somebody else. Maybe slips up and goes off and gets with somebody else in a situation that's not appropriate. Maybe in the context of us still being together. I'm not happy about it. Maybe I'm upset about it. What do you mean you're out of the souffle? I came here because I wanted the souffle specifically. Yes, the steak was fine, but the decision that I am upset about it in that way. I'm not devastated. I'm not eviscerated. My core source of validation and of what it's like to be me is not dependent upon Melissa. There's not a certain amount that I could love Melissa that would lead me to outsource the entree of my experience to her, because it's just not her job and it's just not smart. It doesn't matter if there's two countries that are allied and they've been allies for 1,000 years. I'm still not going to give the launch codes to my nuclear missiles to the other country. It doesn't make any sense. It's stupid. I'm not going to give them the ability to poison my water supply. Why would I do that? It's the dessert. Now, another thing that I don't like to do is I don't like to eat dessert on an empty stomach. I like to layer sweets on top of protein and carb and everything else that's wonderful. They got to be the top of the pyramid. Has to be on the top. I don't like to eat candy when I'm hungry. I will do it. I don't like the way it feels though. In the same way, it's hard for me to enjoy our relationship when I haven't taken care of my own business. It spikes my blood sugar, makes me feel, it's not good for me. And the other thing that it does, and this is what gets a lot of people in trouble, don't eat so much of that you're going to spoil your dinner. There's nothing wrong with enjoying. Now listen, I'm like I can eat a pound of cooking chocolate. Like I love chocolate so much, I can eat a huge amount of it. If I eat it after my meal, I'm fine and I'm good. If I eat it before my meal though, what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to feel stuffed, I'm going to feel sick, and I'm not going to eat the healthy stuff that I need to eat. If I'm going to the other person for validation and for good feelings and to let me know that I'm okay and to let me know that I'm worthy and worthwhile and all this different stuff, I'm going to get so full up on all that sugar they're giving me, that I'm not going to eat the protein. I'm not going to eat the good complex carbohydrates. You see, I'm not going to take care of my own business. I'm not going to improve what it's like to be me. Instead of using Melissa kind of as an inspiration to be better, I'm going to use the happiness that we enjoy together as an excuse not to pursue my dreams. And then in the deep dark hours of the night, I'm going to start saying, oh shit, I'm 35, I'm 45, I'm 55. What if she decides she doesn't want to be with me anymore? I'm fucked. I got nothing outside of her. Not only do I have nothing going on outside of the relationship, I don't have any capacity. I don't have any strategy for feeling good, for enjoying myself, for feeling like I'm making forward progress in life that doesn't in some way or another pass through the bottleneck of her and our relationship together. That is not smart. It's not smart. I love this fire exit so much that it's the only one I'm going to put in the building. What the fuck? What if something falls and you can't get out of it? Shit happens and you don't expect it to happen. Like nobody gets into a relationship saying, boy, this is going to be great. At the end of this, it's going to be horrendous. And we're going to be so surprised and depressed by how awful this turns out. There are people who have murdered their significant others. There are people who've killed themselves. Nobody started off thinking to themselves, maybe things will get so bad, I'll go crazy and kill us. The point is that in the beginning, of course you think it's going to go well. That doesn't mean, though, that you put all your eggs in that basket. And if you do, it's a foolish thing to do. Even if the basket doesn't get dropped, it's still not a good idea. You still want two baskets because you got two arms. You have the capacity to carry two baskets. Why wouldn't you? And why? And it doesn't even mean necessarily taking eggs out of the relationship basket. I'm not worried about you cheating because I don't really care that much about you, and you're not really that important to me. That's not what it means. It means keep all the eggs in that basket, double the amount of eggs that you have. Get some other shit going, get some other things spinning, put some other good things happening, and see if your inclination to worry doesn't change. Now, if it doesn't, probably got one of those patterns that demands that you worry about those things. Again, that's kind of a functional example of this. There are a lot of people who are jealous because it's rational for them to be jealous given the role that they are allowing a relationship or relationships in general to play in their life. If I've got all of my existential eggs in the relationship basket, it makes sense. It would be foolish of me to not be jealous. You know what I'm saying? It just wouldn't add up, and so I'm not going to do it. And if that's the case, well, we need to get some other things going for you. It's not to diminish the relationship, but so that you can have 200%. Do you know what I'm saying? So that you have, because what happens right now is that you spend 50% of your time tending to the relationship, and then you got 50% left over, and you use that time worrying about the fact that this thing that you're putting 50% of your energy into is not going to work out. But if you've got Another thing that you can direct that 50% of your energy to that's fulfilling and rewarding and independent of, if I get a cramp in this hand and drop the relationship basket and all the eggs are completely ruined, got another basket full of the same number of eggs, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? I'm in an okay position. That enables me to not get so worried and freaked out that I drop the basket. It's not about diminishing or reevaluating the way that you think about the importance of a relationship in your life. Is not the point of it is not that the relationship doesn't matter, and the outcome isn't that you have a less effective and resourceful strategy for preserving the relationship. The point of it is that it does matter, so don't make it too important. Don't make it so important that you fuck it up. Make it just important enough that you sustain it maximally. I want to care about us just enough to inspire me, to motivate me to do what works. I don't want to care about us so much that my mind gets kind of squirrely and I start doing what doesn't work. I care so much about you that I'm willing to do things that obviously drive you away. But I just love you so much. I love you so much that I'm willing to do things that make it impossible for you to love me back. I love you so much that I'm going to make myself so miserable by worrying about making pictures of awful things that you might be doing. Or by putting myself in a position where if you in fact did those things, it would be so devastating to me. I'm gonna convince myself that my destiny is in your behavioral hands, so that it is impossible for me to interact with you as an equal, give you the freedom to be a person who might go haywire one day and decide to run off to Cancun with somebody I've never met before. Maybe it's a woman. Hell, what do I know? If that would devastate me, I got to worry about it. I have to worry about it. If, though, I am confident in my ability to respond resourcefully, and I don't specifically mentally prepare myself for Melissa to have a lesbian affair and run off to Cancun. I don't necessarily get that. Okay, Steve, all right, we're going to go into the visualization chamber here. That's not what I mean. But I have kind of developed within myself an identity, and I'm also steadily building a track record of a resourceful responder. I respond resourcefully to shit no matter how shitty that shit is. I respond resourcefully to good stuff, bad stuff, medium stuff, mass stuff, terrible stuff, awful stuff, awesome stuff. What I do is I notice what has my attention and I respond resourcefully to it. Now all of a sudden, not only do I not have to worry about that, I don't even have to specifically kind of flesh out that possibility in my imagination, because it's not. In a sense, I've already prepared for it without ever thinking about it. I respond resourcefully. And what's really cool about it is, to the extent that I become a resourceful responder, you know what I start doing? It's like a worm program. It moves through my whole brain. I start responding resourcefully to the fact that I'm worried about shit that isn't serving me to be worried about. Instead of worrying about what you're doing, I can start noticing, wait a minute, what you're doing, I don't know what you're doing, so I don't know if I need to worry about that. But I do know what I'm doing, because now I'm aware enough to notice it. And what I'm doing is worrying about something that you're doing, and I know that isn't serving me. So maybe I should work on what I know is going wrong rather than running myself ragged, trying to fix things that I'm thinking might be going on for reasons that may not even have any basis in reality. There's a real freedom there, because you stop operating from within the program that isn't serving you, and you get the opportunity to operate on the program that isn't serving you and start turning around so that it does. And that is about so much more than convincing your significant other not to cheat on you or not break up. It is about you becoming free and powerful and getting to live life. Because if I'm having a hard time, like if I'm jealous about you, it's not about you. Ultimately, it's not even about what happened to me. It's not about seeing my parents cheat on each other. It's not about getting cheated on in high school. It's not about any of that shit, ultimately it's about, I have a less than resourceful relationship to reality that causes me to do things that cause me pain. Then I don't need to feel. And if I can get up way back to that pattern level, I can cut through a lot of therapy crap. I can cut through a lot of the proximal causes, which is like, why are you so jealous? Well, because when I was in high school, my boyfriend cheated on me. Okay, well, that's what's one explanation, but it's not particularly useful because we can't do anything about it. How specifically do you go about being jealous? There's like a million answers to that. Well, I gotta have I can't have my self-esteem be too high. I can't have other things to think about. I can't have confidence in my ability to respond resourcefully to what happens, regardless of what happened, what it is that happens. It was like, before you went out earlier, I had to go to the mailbox. Remember what you said to me?
What did I say?
You said, what did you say? You said, I'm great. Something about how great you are. and then you said, and you know what? I mean, you said, do you think I'm great? And I said, yeah, of course I think you're great. And you're like, yeah, that's great. Well, if you didn't think I was great, well, fuck you. And I'll be, and something like, it was hilarious. And she said, I think you're great. And then she just went out the door and I said, oh, there you go. And I didn't think once about what you were doing while you were out. I mean, it was just hilarious and fun, Now that's freedom. I don't think we had the freedom to do that long ago, or years ago or whatever. And it's so easy to define it as like, oh, I'm just so jealous. Well, I'm just a jealous person. I've got this problem. And you devalue yourself when you tell yourself that shit. I am this way. I do these things. It's gross. These patterns are gross. You do not want to identify with them. You don't. I mean, you don't. Like when you open up the refrigerator and there's like some food in there that's got nasty mold on it. I mean, like, if I see that, there's a part of me that's like, ooh, what kind of a person lets that sit in their refrigerator? But I don't take it to heart. But a lot of people, though, they open up, they're like, their spiritual refrigerator or whatever, and they see some grody, moldy, nasty shit in there, and they just put other stuff in front of it because they don't want to see it. It's like you want to be able to see that moldy, nasty gunk and say, oh, that's nasty, doesn't belong in my refrigerator, and throw it in the fucking trash can. That's the freedom. That you don't identify with a moldy salami in your refrigerator. I don't know, does salami get moldy? You don't identify with that moldy stuff in your refrigerator.
Highly cured, maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it's not possible. So don't identify with this stuff. It's no more a part of you than like nasty food. You know what I mean? You just throw it out. You just say, "Ooh, I don't like that," and you reach in. I mean, if you're like me, you call attention to everyone in the room and say, "Look how gross this is," and then you put it in the trash can. And that's just real freedom. I mean, it's that permission to be as you are is permission to become the way that you want to be. And I think it's probably a lot of other specific stuff that we could talk about in terms of jealousy. But I think getting this big picture stuff right is so important because otherwise you're going to be operating within paradigms, within assumptions, within existing belief systems that are going to corrupt whatever good ideas you happen to be exposed to.
Yes.
We see this happen all the time. People want quick fixes and they want easy ideas. The problem with that is that when it's like if I've got an operating system on my computer and it's got a virus in it, every application that I install, every program that I install on that computer is going to be affected in some way or another by the operating system virus. And these ideas, these self-help books, these Men Are From Mars, or, here, what are the new things, love languages and all this different stuff, those are like applications. Those are programs. Some are more useful than others. Some I don't understand at all. Some aren't worth the trouble, but they're kind of cool or whatever. Some are just repackaging of old things. Some are actually really good. But if my operating system isn't working right, if my basic relationship to reality isn't working right, if I gotta have a problem, no solution can be allowed to work too well. You tried multiple different things and they all kind of worked. They all worked a little bit, but not completely. It's a couple of things. Some things are about halfway effective or 3/4 of the way effective. But also, there's certain people who cannot achieve more than a certain without upgrading the operating system. And that's what we're all about. And that's what this big picture stuff is about. It's like, whoa, there's some background things going on here that it's fucking affecting the way I do everything. It's affecting the way I interact with my significant other. It's affecting the way I interact with material that I go out to get to try to improve the way I interact with my significant other. It's affecting the things I say to myself about the manner in which I interact with the material that I went out to get to change. It's contaminating, it's poisoning everything. Until you change the operating system, that stuff can't change because it sits on top and corrupts everything. Why? What's wrong with me? Well, when I was a Christian, it was original sin. When I got into law of attraction, it was because I was thinking negative thoughts. When I went over here, it was because I didn't accept my negative thoughts enough. There's always some explanation about what the fuck is wrong with me, but there's never an instruction about what I can do about it. It's not about something that I am. It's about things that I consistently do. What's the same? What do I do that's the same in all of the areas of life that do not work for me? What shitty shit do I say to myself? What conclusions do I come to? What assumptions do I bring into it? How do I have to feel? What story do I tell myself about that? What behaviors do I engage in? How and to what extent? Why do I identify with those things? There's all this different stuff that goes into the output, and it's unique to you. I mean, it's like a fingerprint, But when you figure out exactly how you go about doing what doesn't work and how you make sure what doesn't work, and you also make sure you're still able to get yourself to do it anyway. Once you figure all that stuff out, the mirror image is so easy. It's just so obvious. Well, of course, if I tell myself this piece of shit story, of course, I'm going to get myself feeling so bad that I'm going to be dumb enough to do what doesn't work, or if I'm smart enough to know it doesn't work, I'm going to feel so bad that I'm going to be willing to do it anyway. Anybody would do it if they were in the position that I consistently place myself in. How do I place myself there? How do I do that? How do I make sense out of giving a fuck about this thing when giving a fuck about this thing doesn't serve me? What do I have to exclude from my attention? What do I have to put into my attention? What do I have to focus on? What do I have to not notice? How do I have to when do I have to resist? What things do I have to tell myself? There's like a million different things. But getting at this background stuff, I think, is like you crack the code, because you see that, like, if I think my problem is jealousy, jealousy is not my problem. Jealousy is a symptom. Anything that has my attention is going to be the symptom. If I think that it's an event in my personal history that causes me to feel jealous, if I think that event in my personal history is my problem, it's not my problem. There's a present moment story that I'm telling myself about a present moment feeling of jealousy that's being caused by a past experience. That story is my problem, but it's hiding. It's hiding in the background of my mind. And it's me telling myself a story that says past event, current experience, bad behaviors, bad outcomes, cyclical, can't do anything about it. I don't notice the story that I'm telling myself. And I don't notice what I'm not doing because I'm so busy telling myself a story about what I can't do, and about the way things have to be, and about the way things can't be. If I can see all that stuff, and it varies from person to person, then I can start telling myself different stories. And I can start saying to myself, well, shit, if I hit myself in the thumb with this fucking hammer again, my thumb's probably going to hurt. The nail's probably going to fall off. Might break the bone. Well, I don't want to do that. Well, I don't know anything else to do instead. Well, maybe I'll just do nothing. Maybe I just don't do anything. If you've spent the last 30 years of your life smacking your thumb with a hammer, and you don't know anything else to do, just putting the hammer down you will naturally start healing. And as the pain begins to subside, you'll start looking around and start saying, man, now that I'm not spending my whole life smacking myself in the thumb with this hammer, God, it's a beautiful day outside. Maybe I'll go do something out there, and maybe this and maybe that. And it just starts snowballing in a really wonderful direction.
Oh, I love so much of what you said. I loved it, like the entree thing.
Well, like 80% of it?
No, I loved all of it. The eggs in the basket, and how, just having that, how it doesn't take anything away from the relationship to be totally full and sufficient on your own. And this is the part of the video where I just have to mention GNM and how important it is to do this work, because of the fact that, like, if you are in that type of relationship where you just kind of surrendered your entire identity and selfness to this thing called the relationship, and you have nothing else, and you aren't feeding yourself your own entree, like you and the relationship is just all in everything, and all of your eggs and all of your sustenance comes from this relationship, it does make it more difficult as life goes on and people pass away, or people have midlife crises and they go off and do things, and when you are in that position mentally and emotionally, you're much more fragile and susceptible, I think, to experiencing really catastrophic biological conflicts, which manifest as, the diseases that most people end up being diagnosed with in their 50s, 60s, 70s, because there's just so much emotion there, and you don't have that kind of, that reserve. And, that ability to lose people, for relationships to fall apart, for breakups to happen, for people to die, but for you to still have some sense of okayness, I do think comes from having fed yourself, having had your own eggs in your own basket, and realizing that everything about this can be fully enriching and fully wonderful and fully lovely, but my ruination is not dependent upon you and your existence and your role in my life, and I think that's a really important thing. And I do think a lot of people, that section that you just said about how it doesn't diminish the relationship to have that part of yourself that is kind of untouched, that is sufficient on its own. It does not diminish the love of your relationship for your children, for your partner. It just doesn't. And when you, and I think I believe that for very long, that it was just like complete surrender and complete entwining and complete just, and that there's no reason for me to have anything of my own or feeding because this is everything. And that, having that up on the pedestal, it really does just put you in that position where, and it's not like you're hard shell and you need, you don't know the real me kind of stuff.
I would, to kind of, as an example of this, to kind of vividly illustrate it, is that this kind of contrived dependency on the other person is not an expression of love. I would never give you the antidote to a poison. You say you're going to be home at 5 o'clock in the evening. I would never give you the antidote to a poison that would kill me in 15 minutes and take that poison at 4:45 as in an effort to demonstrate my love for you. I mean, but you probably have
But
never.
Romeo and Juliet, because that's really romantic.
You've probably never once thought, though, and that is a perfect illustration of how being overly invested in a relationship will fuck the whole thing up. I'm so upset because I think that you're dead that I kill myself. Oh, but shit, you weren't actually dead, but now you're going to be because I killed myself, and you're so upset you're going to kill yourself. That is a beautiful example of how wrong things can go. And I think another thing about this too is, if you're over-invested in your relationship, you don't have to draw out your emotional equity from it so that you can put it somewhere else. You have this mental money that accumulates every single day. If you've over-invested in it and you don't want to take any out, leave it there. Start investing some of the emotional equity that you have coming in on a daily, moment-to-moment basis, though. Start looking for other areas to invest it. Very soon you will have built, a situation where you've got more invested in yourself and in the world as a whole than you do specifically in that relationship. You want to have enough in the relationship so that the relationship continues to improve. Yeah, we got a very lovely little rose plant here, right? You're doing a nice job of keeping this thing very healthy. You don't express love for the rose plant by saying, oh, okay, it looks like you've had enough water. Here's another gallon. It's more than you need, but here's another gallon. Oh, you've been out in the sun for 45 minutes. You look like you've had enough. How about another 3 hours? Because I love you so much. I know it's going to kill you, but plants need sun and plants need water. And I'll be damned if you or anyone else is going to accuse me of not loving you enough to take care of you. And so smother, drown, drown, drown. It's like, again, care enough to do what works. And I think that, it's not about people being stupid. It's not. You're not stupid. I wasn't stupid. You're not stupid. You never were. It's about, there's this unexamined commitment to stupid ideas and to unresourceful assumptions. And if they're unexamined and they're operating in the back of my mind, I can operate rationally. It's not about women being emotional. It's not about men being withdrawn, or it's not about any of that shit. If I've got stuff in the back of my mind that I'm not looking at that's got me set up or confined to certain patterns of thought, feeling, and behavior, and I don't know those things are confining me, but they are, I'm confined by them, whether I know I am or not. And if I proceed logically from an illogical starting point, I'm going to end up probably somewhere illogical. It's so important. If I gave you bad instructions and you followed them to the letter and got a bad result, you don't get to feel bad about the fact that happened. If you inherited some stuff that's not serving you, it literally, there could be, what could there not be in one of our kitchen drawers that if we hadn't looked in it? There's no amount of bad that what is in that drawer could be that would allow us to do something about it if we don't know what's there. There's no amount of poisonous that what was the basement? Radon. There's no amount of bad for you that radon can be that will get you to do something about it until you know it's there in the basement or wherever, And I think that your thoughts and these assumptions and things, they operate in the same way. And when you start, I guess, to kind of think about it like that, you get to be as smart as you really are, and you get to feel as good as you feel when you allow yourself to be as smart as you are, because there is this effortless movement towards perpetual improvement, towards this getting better, towards I got better at not doing what doesn't work today. I got better at doing what does work today, doing more of what works, more effective, more efficient. This feels good. It feels good, to deny my emotions? No, but to respond resourcefully to the fact that the emotion is there, to asking myself questions in relationship to that emotion that are useful, not to withdrawing from my relationship because they said to, but examining and perhaps, if appropriate, renegotiating my relationship to relationships in general. A lot of this stuff, it's stuff that you could do and the other person would never even know it. And they might say, boy, things are going a lot nicer here. You seem to be in a really good mood. But it's not like we have to sit down and I've been too invested in you and things are about to change, buddy. It doesn't have to be like that. It's not like, and that's one of the things, I did a video a couple days ago about about the video game thing and the awareness, and we had some really great people in this awareness challenge, and the person said, oh, this awareness stuff is so good, I'm going to tell this person about it. And I was kind of a little dismayed because oh no, don't tell them about it. Don't tell them about it. Just do it yourself. Just demonstrate it to them. The power of doing that is so, it's such a natural kind of thing to want to do, but literally, if you start practicing, it's about improving what it's like to be you, and then they get to improve what it's like to be them. And it's it's kind of like, I don't know, it's just an exciting topic, and it's a wonderful way the way that you deconstruct jealousy is you got to step outside of it. If I'm inside, you don't demolish a building from the inside. You don't drive the tractor into the building and then start swinging the thing around. If you're in the casino, you have to step outside of it to kind of demolish it. And I think that with these states, you have to step outside of them to take them apart. And you have to step outside not just of that state. That state is like a room in a building, and that building is like what it's like to be you. And you have to step outside of that whole thing and discover that there's so much more to what it's like to be you than the building you've been dwelling in your whole life and the various rooms that are states that are kind of inside of it. You step outside and say, oh, there's a whole world here, and this is only one of many buildings that I could be in, and I don't think I like that room, and so let's remove that wing and build something else new instead. And like that's the really exciting stuff. I mean, and that's when relationships become fun, because it's a completely new and different. I like you. Do you like me? Want to hang out together?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Let's do that. Because that's the reality of what life is, I think.
Yeah.
You know, like that's really what it's like. And I think when you start interacting with what it really is, rather than what the romanticized ideas or the whatever the opposite of that, the dramatic kind of poopy ideas of what it is, when you're free of that and you just get to say, here's a person over there, there's a what it's like to be them, there's a what it's like to be me. I'm trying to improve what it's like to be me. I'd like for them to improve what it's like to be them. Then maybe we could, what it's like to be us, could become a thing. That's really fun. And that's what works. And that's kind of what we're all about, I think.
Yeah. So if you are interested in some of the things that we did, the kind of paths that we went down to kind of get to the point that we are now with our relationship with ourselves individually, you could set up a free 15-minute call with either Steve or myself to chat. Just about our programs and coaching, if that's something that you're interested in, you or even couples. Steve's been doing a lot more couples coaching now, and so there's some really cool things that you guys can do together, taking the Ever Better Life course together, doing coaching, really awesome stuff to help improve what it's like to be you. So our dog is here now, so that means we have to turn the video off. Good night. Thank you for being here. Share this video if you liked it, and if you think it can help someone else.
Good night.
See you later.
See ya.